why do people go to psychologists and psychiatrists? Because they want a platform where they can actually tell what's going on in them and they speak to someone. And that psychological stuff could be substituted by your close friend, your dependable family member, your spouse, your daughter, your brother. It can be anyone.
Even keeping a diary.
Even keeping a diary.
Keep a diary and they write everything.
And I mentioned, like, you can express your insight through paintings the way you do, or through writings the way you do. So what you do is, you're basically putting the stress out of your body by talking to others. So many people ask me, why are you all the time happy and smiling, at least most of the times, when you're actually in a very, very difficult field?
It is.
So I say, just talk it over. I talk it out. If I am in stress, I talk to my mom. That's a trade secret. Or to my wife. So the moment you talk about your grief,
so it's so important to unload.
Absolutely, unload, and that's soothing. So that's the role of psychiatrists, that's the role of psychologists. So basically it's all about brains, not only cancer, anything or not. Even an exam. If you go with the temperament that you're going to lose the exam, there's very high chance that you're secreting certain chemicals, neurotransmitters, substances in your body that give a negative impact to your doings. And if you're a positive person, you take everything positively, I think you can beat any situation. Cancer is one of them.
Right. Srini, what about society's role in this? How, in particularly our part of the world, how do people react to cancer? How have you found it personally? People must have come to you with their own problems after, you've been so vocal and you have this platform where they can share things with you. What have you found?
Well, first of all, I knew that there is this, now I have lately learned that it's called ANT, A-N-T, auto-negative thoughts.
Okay.
And this is
ANT, auto-negative thoughts. Okay.
Auto-negative thoughts, and this is Dr. Daniel Amin has mentioned this in his theories about brain, how to take care of your brain. And you take care of your brain by negating this point about the ant, so the auto-negative thoughts. You remove that, you try to avoid it. In our society, I think this ant is everywhere.
Everywhere.
So first thing that I was very clear about was that I will not share it with anybody.
Okay.
And I was very clear that, okay, I've got this problem, I will deal with it my way. I will not listen to anybody, and I saw my friend how she had dealt with, and she had also not told anybody. I was one of the few friends who knew about it. Also, there was the corona times, so there was no question of meeting anybody. I have had friends who have had cancer who spent the whole time in one room. I am a people person, I couldn't have done that. So for 6 months, even during the 6 months, I kept in touch with the society. Only I didn't share with them my news, which I shared with my daughters and my very close friends. And this was a core group with whom I shared. You were one of them. But they were very few. And I didn't tell my relatives, I didn't tell anybody. And I was very clear about it. And all those who knew about it also did the same. They didn't share it with anybody. No, I felt that Allah is the one who's guiding me to the right way. So with Amber, I told her that whatever you did, just tell me, because here was a success case.
Amber was your friend who had the treatment for breast cancer, and she is the one that helped me through a lot of the...
So I said, I will do everything that you did. So she took me to Dr. Farrukh herself, personally, and she was there. She introduced me to the doctor, and I met him. I was very comfortable with him, and I felt that, yes, this is the right one. And I felt that it is God who's brought me to him through my friend.
What a lovely thought.
And that's it.
And that's true.
And then I surrendered. Once you made your choice, once you selected your doctor, stick to that. And then tell the least possible people. Once I was clean of cancer, then I wrote the blogs.
Shared it,
The most important thing is to be in command. command, take control. You see what happened, like I would go to any doctor, they would talk to my daughter or my son-in-law. I would say, look, I'm the patient, talk to me.
Talk to me, yeah.
You know, I went to the surgeon, he was talking to them. He said, Acha, look at the patient and then talk to my daughter. I said, I brought my chair forward. I said, here, I am the patient, talk to me, explain to me.
Dr. Farrukh, why was that happening?
I think most of the families, they would come before the patient turns in and say, look, we don't want our parent to know that she has cancer. The moment she would know, she would collapse. And well, how can you stop an inevitable thing? Breaking news is an art. We teach it, and there's a way to do it. We just don't say that you have a cancer, you're going to die. That's the most absurd thing any of the doctors would do. You have to be really careful when to
words you use.
Yeah, when to break the news. So if you think your patient is very weak at heart, you may actually postpone it to very long periods of time. And there are other occasions when patients have disease progression and they don't want to know. They've just gone through a savage course of chemotherapy, had a rough time, and then you tell them that, oh, sorry, you know, your disease is not being controlled, and we move on to another. So sometimes you have to delay. So you have to be really tactful. But I think I just mentioned Shireen has been phenomenal. You know, the word cancer survivor actually fits her. It's not only experiencing what went wrong physically, psychologically, financially, but also narrating it in the common man's word. That's the beauty about her writing.
Yeah, of course.
And I just told you that I go to my car wash, you know, for maintenance, and the lady says, you are the doctor of Shireen. And I said, Sarah, you know me for 2 years, but I didn't know you were a doctor of so I become sort of, you know.
You've become a celebrity doctor.
Yeah, that's the most appropriate word you've used. So, I mean, people, that's how I found out that people, young girls, I'm talking about girls because we're talking about breast cancer. That's the most prevalent cancer in our society. It's like popping up like anything. So they're reading her thoughts, the way when she's in the chemotherapy room, she's writing what is she actually going through.
And awareness.
And awareness, obviously. And she's telling that, look, I'm least bothered about the chemotherapy. Look at the greenery outside. So the positivity of her emotions.
She's taking away
the stress.
The stress and also the fear.
Out of the people.
Of this. Because this isn't something as a society we talk about.
We don't.
As a society, we tend to shut down. Even if there's a harsh reality staring us in the face, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to indulge in it. You know, Dr. Farrukh, your job is not an easy one, because people who come to you, they are in a highly, I would think would be in a highly emotional state, because again, the fear and the taboo that is associated with this word.
Absolutely.
So how do you...
Look, I will second her. I think I have a personal experience of my first blood who has cancer, and that was 6 years ago. And I knew, my sister-in-law knew, my brother knew, and my dad knew that she has a cancer. And we went through surgery, we went through a minor external brachytherapy procedure for her, she's cured. And, you know, when my family, you know, the in-laws, they started to realize that, okay, they have cancer in the mom. They said, oh, she's going to die. And after 6 years, they said, Dr. Farrukh lied. Nothing happened, so there was nothing. It was just, you know. So best thing is to keep to your doctor. I second that, Shireen. Like, it's you who should take command of your decisions, not your son.
Exactly.
You're the one who should know that you are going to go through this race. Obviously not all alone. You have a guide, like, you know, a student has a mentor, plane has a pilot. So the pilot is the best example I can quote you. You don't just sit in the plane and start asking silly questions from the pilot. That's diversion from its path, because it's carrying 460 passengers and it's got a time that he has to fly that plane. Ours is a longer time. So give us the breathing space. Now, when a patient comes, as I just mentioned it, my brain starts working there. What can I do to bring the best out of this case? I don't think about death. Even if the death is imminent, I say, okay, what's the best can be done to make him comfortable?
As you said, 70%.
70% are curable. Curable is the word.
Curable is a huge
word. And most of them are treatable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I don't want to sound it so easy that people say, oh, it's not a problem. It is a problem.
It is a problem.
But it becomes easy when you play it in an easy way.
Absolutely.
So mentor, pilot should be the one. You should discuss and direct all your questions to your doctor instead of asking people here and there. This can happen to anybody. There is no exemption.
Okay, hereditary, it increases the risk.
That's
but
only 5%.
That does not mean.
That's 5 to 10% of
nominal.
risk. Yeah, absolutely.
So that does not mean that somebody who does not have it in the family cannot get it.
Absolutely. And with the type of lifestyle we have adapted, the environmental hazards, our food habits, our lifestyles, they are contributing more than what hereditary is. That's the 90% of cancers are caused by these kind of things.
You know, Shireen did something that was very, very positive and I would say very intelligent. Tell us, Shireen, about what you did. You went on board with a psychiatrist and you consulted him. What did he have to say?
You see, my big problem was how to break the news to my daughters.
Okay.
So I wanted to learn from a psychiatrist how to do that. So I had a session with my psychiatrist, and he then told me that the daughters living abroad, I told him that I don't want to share this news with them, but he said it is their right to know about it. So you must be very particular about sharing this news with them. Then of course, then I said how to break the news to them. So he told me that I tell them that I had a lump and I got a test. Then wait, next time when you talk, you know, the result has come.
Okay.
So slowly,
so in small
you're slowly
doses.
breaking the news to them.
Right.
What actually happened was something extremely funny. Extremely funny. Like I did the slow thing of telling them, no, you know, and then I was sending a voice note to my youngest that, look, I did it so nicely. I'm so proud of myself.
And you sent it to them. This sounds like something I would do.
I sent it into the family group and my both daughters knew about it.
It was a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise, but it was really funny.
I think your doctor chips in there, like, you know, they have to give you this belief that you can do it.
Yes.
Okay, this is a race which is like a marathon. It would run for 6 months or 8 months, but it's eventually gonna end and end most of the time successfully. Well, I'm in the national media, PTV, and I'm actually looking into my words. Breast cancer is one of the most treated cancers, most treatable cancer, most curable cancer, most prevalent cancer, most researched, Now the breast cancer is not like a breast cancer. We want to know which type of breast cancer you have. Some of them are very aggressive and some are aggressive, but we have those kinds of magical targeted therapies like the one we chose for Shireen, which actually magically, when we had surgery, we didn't find cancer.
That's wonderful.
So sometimes people come and say, are you sure I had cancer? So because the drugs have revolutionized, it's all because of the research work in the West, which has poured into, breast cancer in specific. Even if you ask a doctor, you'll realize most of the doctors would know more about breast cancer. Most of the people would know more about, because it's the most talked about cancer. It's most researched about cancer.
Shireen, there are a lot of, when a person goes for chemotherapy, and that's another word that troubles people a lot.
Very traumatizing.
Yeah. So how did you deal with that? And
I actually had to do a psychoanalysis of myself.
Okay.
My first one was a total disaster. And I admire Dr. Farrukh for tolerating everything. But it was really, I felt terrible. I ended up in emergency twice, and it was horrific.
That was because of the pomegranate juice you took.
Yes.
Yeah. Please be specific.
Yeah, that was one of the causes.
Are you sure it was just pomegranate juice and not something else as well?
Another thing also, definitely.
No, it's because of chemotherapy causing sort of, inflammation, sterile inflammation of your gut lining, the intestines. And if you put irritating, would you put lemon on a wound? You won't.
Right.
So she actually took pomegranate juice, which is citrus.
And then chemotherapy will affect different people in different ways.
In different ways, yeah.
Yes.
It depends your genes.
Yeah.
So some people may tolerate pomegranate juice easily, and for others it becomes an irritating stuff. So her blood counts went down.
Total disaster.
She had a terrible time initially. I think after that,
it was better.
You stopped the pomegranate and everything.
Then you learned from that.
It was better.
Yeah.
Also, Dr. Farrukh had clearly told me not to go eat out.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I did. I think it was on the third day of my chemo.
Okay.
It was actually the first wedding anniversary of my children.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought I'll treat them to dinner out.
Oh.
We went to Serena, and after that it was really horrific for me.
So every time you stray away from the doctor's advice, you're asking for trouble actually.
And remember, the doctor will always find out.
No, I told him. I shared it.
She's very straight and
you have to be. You have
honest.
to be very honest with your doctor.
Yeah.
You can't hide things from him, and you shouldn't.
And you shouldn't.
So that's very important. And luckily, he also figured it out, and I also confessed, and I realized where my fault was, and of course that was never repeated again. I had thought I'll go to a 4-star hotel, it'll be fine, but it wasn't. One doesn't realize in the beginning how weak and how vulnerable you are. And you can't. You think, oh, I'm fine, I'll be okay, and you feel fine also. First 3 days after the chemo, you do feel fine.
Right.
So you think, oh, everybody was just talking nonsense. I was driving away and this and that. I was fine. And I collapsed on the 4th day.
Okay.
And then I realized this was a pattern. Every chemo, on the 4th day, I would.
That's when it hits you hardest.
Yes. So I would, next time I would be prepared. That the next 3-4 days will not be good.
Right.
So once you're mentally prepared, you're okay.
I just want to add, Shabnam, when you talk about cancer in general and breast cancer in particular, what is your aim? What is your goal? Obviously life. But how about life with least side effects, cosmetic preservation, preservation and quality of life. So there should be 4 objectives in every woman's mind, any cancer patient mind. The best oncologist is one who ensures life, disease-free, you become a survivor, least side effects. Well, you can have nausea or a pomegranate stuff, and you should have your breast intact, and you enjoy your quality of life the way you were doing it before.
Right.
So she's a live example, alhamdulillah, with the grace of God and the wisdom, that prevails. It's a contribution, it's a game between the cancer and us. And us is the body, and the body is that of the patient, and the mind games.
The mind games.
And the mentor or the pilot is your doctor. And there are a whole lot of people around that who support you. So the support program in the West comes from support groups, but in Pakistan it comes with your
family
close friends
as well.
Family, doctor, if they have time. So we try to help as much as we can. So she is a typical example where actually Shifa International, under one cover everything is available. CT, she doesn't have to go to IDC or advanced diagnostics. For biopsy, she doesn't have to go to another.
Everything is there, so
for
it's
plastic surgery. So everything is under one hand. So that gives a lot of room for the doctor to exhibit his skill. So and like she says, it's mind game. There's another mind game going on, and that's happening in your doctor's mind.
Oh yes, of
what
course.
do I do the best to achieve those 4 things?
Which we often don't realize.
You don't even realize.
Because what happens is that you just think of the doctor as, this is something they do in routine. So you don't even realize the energy that they're giving as well. Shirin, you tell me, being a strong person, where does it come from? Who is a strong person, and what do you tell people who say to you, I'm not a strong person?
Okay. Basically it comes, it's a very nice thing is that you've been strong earlier, then it's easy for you to be strong. Nobody can suddenly switch to being strong. So you've got to be strong even normally in life.
Right.
And that's how you suddenly, even in a new situation, you are strong there also. If a person has been weak throughout their life, you can't expect that they'll suddenly turn strong. They can't. So basically it's the temperament of a person. That's one thing. You have got those strengths, you acknowledge it. As a woman, we give birth to a child. That is something nobody, the men can't do it or whatever. I mean, it's a very strengthening thought that I have the ability to have a human being and to take care of us, keep, the whole upbringing of the child and everything we're doing, bring them up to an adult, stage. That much strength every woman has. How can she say that she is not strong? She's strong. And God has, and the other is faith. Did you know that God will only bring you to a problem when He knows you can deal with it?
Yeah.
So have faith in the God who brought you to it. If He can lead you to it, He will lead you through it.
Beautifully said, beautifully said.
Remember
so basically you're saying that
It's
you
within.
have the strength.
Yes.
You have to look for it harder. You have to find it. It's there.
Yes.
It's just you haven't
Definitely.
realized it yet, as you have said, because maybe you weren't exposed to these situations, or you just need somebody to tell you, to reassure you. Dr. Furrukh?
Yeah, look, there are English words, beautiful words, resolve, determination, resilience, perseverance. So all these abilities are in a human being.
Yeah.
How you nurture them,
Yeah.
So I've worked abroad as well, in Saudi Arabia. In Pakistan, you talk about Saudis, they are very crook, they are very hard. No, they are one of the most close human beings to God. They read Quran every time they go to the... I've seen, Saudis taking their kids with them to the mosque. Everybody is reading Quran. So they are linked to God. You tell them, your God is not going to make it in probably a week or 2 weeks. Alhamdulillah. We were born by God, we will be taken by God. So they're not afraid of death because they're linked. So that's the first thing. And then I said, now you groom your children in a way that you give them equality. People who express are the one who would live probably the longest. They are the one who is going to be the most easygoing. They will be the one who are most positive, not only in dealing with cancer, with any situation equivalent to cancer in life.
Yeah.
So what would make me determined is a challenge. So
That
if you are a
is
person
beautifully
who can
said.
take challenges, you can take anything.
So true.
Cancer is one of the challenges. We should take it as a challenge. We shouldn't worry about death. Death is imminent.
We need to change our attitude.
We have to
need
change
to
our attitude.
Thank you so much. We're actually running out of time, but I have, really enjoyed talking to you both, and I'm sure that our viewers have been watching this program have really benefited. Thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you, Shabnam. It's a pleasure.
It's really been great.
Pleasure
Really
being here with
Thank
my special guest here. She's the special guest.
Wish you the best. Wish you the best.
Wish you the best.
Okay, that's all we have time for right now. See you next time. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye-bye.